Hello, I'm Eddie,
I'm Morgan.
and this is the first episode of the Nerd Wife, Nerd Life podcast. Just a quick word about us. Morgan and I have been married for a year and a half, playing board games for just a little bit longer than that. And so we decided to start this podcast just as a fun little side project for us in our spare time, where we get to just talk about board games and the fun we have playing them.
Yeah, we're really grateful to all those who have encouraged us to start, and we're just here to have fun. So
Thank you to all three of the people listening to this.
Hey
Thank
Mom,
you
hey Dad.
to both of our parents. And so let's get right into it. Our first segment is called Something Old and Something New. Each episode, one of us will talk about a new to us board game. You know, we're not always up on the cutting edge of the latest board game releases, but a game that's new to us and a game that's older to us. Again, not necessarily something that's super old, but something that maybe we've had for a while and have gotten a lot of plays in.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we share the love to our game collection. And so it may not always be, like he said, the most relevant or newest, coolest thing, but it's still a good game. And we want to make sure that it gets attention and that maybe you haven't heard of it and it can be new to you and you can go out and find it and have a great time with it.
All right, so I'm going to start us off with Rising Sun. So Rising Sun is the newest game in our collection.
Yes, it is.
It's a Japanese-themed game, area control drafting game by Eric Lang. It's his successor to Blood Rage. It is quite a lot of fun. You have your own clan of miniatures that you have a special... Each clan has a different special power, which is always really fun. And you basically vie for control of like a feudal era Japan. Along the way, you're going to draft draft actions to use, and take control over different areas, earning victory points along the way, fighting other clans and making alliances with others. And it's a pretty good time. We've played it a couple times. I've had a really good time every single time. And
I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about that game was that the two times that we've played it, we've seen two different approaches to winning. You can be a very passive, not trying to barge into different regions and try and muscle your way to victory, but you can also like lay back and you can negotiate and play more of a pacifist style, and that will also take you to victory. So I think that's one of the exciting parts is I think no matter your approach to gaming, it's not all a war game or all
it's not just like straight up combat will always win. Like there are options. Like Caleb won last time and he ended up just buying lots and lots of cards, had lots of money. And that was a pretty cool thing to see. There are some issues that I have with it. There are a lot of times like when you like ally with a player, if you ally with the person who goes like right before you or right next to you, you can get like a double turn right in a row, which I don't think is like broken or anything like that, but it's always like a really strong
because your actions there's something good for you when you choose something that will allow you to do an action, but on your ally's turn it will also benefit you what you are doing. And so you guys are usually coordinating what action do you want? If I get it, do we want to play it? What do we need? And so like he said, when you have somebody right next to you,
you kind of get two beneficial turns right in a row, which is really strong. And so it leads me to believe, like, I don't know, when we play next, I'm going to really try to ally with like the person right next to me, because that's going to give us I think a more advantageous position than if we were like allied and there were one or two people taking turns in between ours.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Although you could argue that would be more tactical. Of if you see something that happens in between your turns, you have an ability to come back after that or to do something against that.
That's true. You can kind of react to what other people do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the other thing too that I've seen people complain about, it doesn't really bother me, but because there are 7 mandate phases in like one season, like mandate phases when you choose the action that you're going to do, because it's an odd number and Rising Sun plays 3 to 6 with like the expansion that we have, plays 3 to 6, and so none of those numbers divide evenly into 7, which means that every round at least one person, possibly more, will have more turns than other people. But I think that evens itself out over the course of the 3 seasons because you always start off with the person who was next since the last season. But it does make it kind of awkward when you're like, well, if I had one more turn, like I could have changed some things. But I kind of like that asymmetry. I like asymmetry in games, and I think there's a lot of really good like aspects of balance in this game that I think make it play really well.
Yeah, and I found myself when I noticed that of like, okay, I'm going to get 3 turns I'm going to get to choose 3 things that I really want to do. And I found myself thinking, okay, this whole season, how am I going to approach this? What do I need to do to get ready for the war? I found that really exciting. I wasn't too disgruntled by it. Also, again, because even if you are the person that's only going to have 2, if you find yourself in an alliance, that helps mitigate it a little bit, and that you don't have to, you only get 1 or 2 turns. Actually, you're kind of getting like 2.5 to 3 turns because your partner could also have more.
Yeah.
So.
If you had to give it a rating out of 10, what would you give it? I don't know if you've done it on Board Game Geek yet.
I don't think I have done it on Board Game Geek yet. I think I would give it, can we do halves?
Sure.
Okay. I'd give it right now an 8.5.
Okay, why?
I think because, so like he said, it's a Kickstarter, and so we have all these expansions, and there's these big miniatures, and it's kind of a beast to get out and get onto the table. And so I think for me, it's a little bit of just like getting over that like block of like, okay, this is going to be a commitment. It's not as big as maybe TI4 or something, because it's not as big of a time commitment, but just juggling pieces and all those things, I think for me, it's a little bit harder, but I think it will grow. The more we play it, the more I'm going to love it. I don't foresee it going backwards.
But so you think you would like it more right now if like we just like threw a box of miniatures away?
No, because then I would know we threw a box of miniatures away. That's not okay. But I think for me, having more things right away makes me struggle because like
I guess there's more to explore. Like
yeah.
You don't have a grass with a base and then add stuff on top of that. It's just everything all at once.
Right. And I think when the 2 times we've played it, you've done a good job of deciding, okay, we're going to play with this expansion, or we're not going to play with this thing. We're not going to add it in, which is kind of rare for you because you like to throw everything in all the time. That's an approach of Eddie's that he loves. Doesn't matter if you're brand new to playing games. He wants you to play with everything. Yep. But I do think that's been good. But in my mind, it's like, oh, we haven't even played with the Fox Clan, which is the...
Yes, we have.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You were the Fox Clan, and I was the Fox Clan.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't played with the Sun and the Moon clans.
That's it. I knew there was a clan that we hadn't played.
And then the Kami Unbound, like little expansion.
Yeah.
Which they all look fun. It's just, like you said, it's just like a matter of complicating things more.
Right. Would you say that... Because this was the second thing we kickstarted, right? Yep. Like, we are not huge Kickstarters.
Third.
Was it the third?
We kickstarted Coco's first, I think. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, it was the second.
Are you happy that we kickstarted it? Is that like an investment or a risk that we paid for up front that you're happy we did?
Yeah, I don't know why kickstarting things doesn't really bother me that much. I know that we've talked about some other things and you don't like the aspect that we have to like wait for it. Mm-hmm. But my thing is like the game doesn't exist like at the point that you're kickstarting it, right? Like you're kickstarting it so that it can be produced. And I know there's like a lot of like debate in board gaming about like whether that's like a good model for the industry or whatever, but I don't really like have any in-depth insight into that. I just think that I don't know, people get annoyed that it's like, well, if you didn't kickstart this, you don't get this stuff. But I'm like, you have to put money like so far in advance that I don't see why, you shouldn't get rewarded for that. And I don't mind if they later wanted to sell like Kickstarter exclusives, stretch goals or exclusives or whatever at retail. That doesn't bother me at all. But I don't know. I thought it was fine. Like they shipped it all on time, and we've got this awesome game now. So
well, and we've only kickstarted a few things in general, so we haven't been burned by that. Yep. And for us, we've been very intentional about what we kickstart.
In case you were wondering what I wanted to rate it.
Hey, what would you like to rate it, Eddie?
A little far from that. I think I'd give it like an 8. So I'm like about the same place as you. Like it's a really good game.
That surprises me, actually.
You think it would be higher?
Yeah.
I think it's just. I think it's the same way for me. Like I have to play it more to like understand strategies more, because it's like you have it, like the actions you pick are like so impactful, because like you only get to do like 6 of them, or like at most like 6 of them on your own
over the course of the entire
over the
game.
course of the entire game. Like obviously like your allies like add into that, but it's like each one like matters so much that if you pick one that doesn't matter, it feels like you're like you don't have like a huge amount of control. But at the same time, like you can swing a lot of things like in combat and by purchasing monsters and stuff like that. So there's like it's got this like nice tension of like you can't do everything that you want to do, but you also have like enough control that you can kind of focus on what you want to. So yeah, I think right now I'm more on the side that it's like I feel like I can't always do what I want to do, and I think that part of that is not understanding how best to play the clans that I've played. So I was like the Bonsai clan the first time, and like their power is just you can buy stuff really cheap. So I just tried to buy a bunch of stuff, and it like worked okay. And then the second time was the Fox clan. I didn't win that first game though. Like I got wrecked. The second time was the Fox clan. The Fox clan lets you summon guys into battles that you don't already have people in, so you get to add force to random battles that you weren't already a part of, which is really interesting. It seems really powerful, but it didn't seem as...
It's a hard one, I think.
Yeah, it didn't... like there are a couple cards that combo really well with it, and I got one of them, but I feel like I couldn't capitalize on that power enough. But it does make me want to play the game more, so I can like figure out some more of these synergies and stuff. So yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10.
All right.
All right, so that was our something new. Morgan's going to take it away with our something old.
All right, something old for me, which it came out in 2016. Am I correct? So it's actually not really that old in the life of a board game.
No, but we've had it.
But it's not cutting edge, and it's been in our collection for a while. But it's my number one favorite game of all board games, and it's Inish by Matago Games, and it's one that... How would you describe the overall? There's card drafting,
it's
there's
pretty similar,
area
actually.
Control, yeah. Maybe we have a limited view or we just chose things that are similar, but...
There's more of a drafting element.
Sure.
Rising Sun's not really... like, there's a drafting element, but it's not really a drafting game.
No. But in Inish, you are an explorer setting out to build your clan. And you want your clan to be...
victorious.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're trying to say. Like you want your clan to be the most prominent out of all the other clans in like feudal Ireland.
Right. So you are exploring, and there's these really cool jigsaw-looking puzzle pieces that fit together to build the board, and the board's going to always look different every time. And you're exploring new lands. But you're going to do all of these things by drafting your actions. And so there are season cards that you will draft at the beginning of each round. And so that will determine the things that you can do throughout. And so there's a couple different ways to victory. You can build sanctuaries, you can explore a certain number of places, or you can have the strongest force in a certain region.
Yeah. And that aspect is really interesting because there's not like it's the same thing. There's not like one way to win. Like you just need to fight everybody else. It's like you can almost be sneaky in winning.
Yes, which
like,
is my favorite approach to playing board games.
Like somebody just looks up and they're like, "Oh, wait a second! Like Morgan's about to win," and then like people have been focusing on like me the whole game or whatever, and you just get in there.
Right. And so in general, I think this game for a big point of that is that there's multiple ways to win, but it's also been something that I've really enjoyed of being able, you declare when you are like, oh, I can win. At the end of this round, I will win if someone doesn't stop me. And I've heard that it can kind of be a bad thing, that people don't like that. It's like, well, we're just going to play until kind of, it's an extreme version of Munchkin. Like, well, we're just going to play until somebody can't beat or stop you from doing something. And so... I
don't know about that, but...
I didn't say I agreed. I'm just saying that that's the argument that I've heard. But, you know, you're declaring that. So it's like daring you to stop me. Like, all right, let's see what you... Now, it can be kind of annoying because then literally everyone gangs up on you. That is like, all right, we've got to stop you. If all of us want a chance at winning. But all of us can meet different conditions at that point. You know, if we're playing a 4-player game, both Eddie and I can be in a position to win. And then at the end of the round, depending on certain
criteria,
one of us can win or neither of us will win. And then the game will continue. But this is one that I think I was a sucker for the art in general. I think that was a really huge thing for me. It's just got a great look to it, and the components are great. But this game has just been one that I keep coming back to with a lot of love, and I think doesn't hit our table as much as I would. But anytime I think of Inish, I like smile to myself. I'm like, yeah, I like Inish a lot.
The Irish theme doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, my name, I have a hyphenated last name, and my maiden original name is literally Irish. My name is Morgan Irish, Irish George now. But so obviously that does a big thing for me, I think. But it's just been one that we're excited about, and I'm super happy that we have in our collection, and we'll continue to try and share it with other people.
Well said. What would you give it out of 10? I know it's your best board game of all time.
I mean,
so I can guess.
I feel like I can't not say 10, but I also don't want to say 10 because if I say that it's perfect, somehow it's a 10, there's not room for growth. And I guess, I don't know, I feel like I'm shutting that down.
I don't like that mentality because then that means you're never going to use like that scale degree.
All right, so then let's throw that out the window scale. And I'll give it a 10.
All right, there we go.
How would you rate it?
Not that you can't give it a 9 if you want to.
No.
I would probably give it a 9. I like the game a lot too. I don't have any problems with it, but I think that I don't know, maybe like a 9.5. I've rated this one on Board Game Week. I forget what I've given it, but it's a really well-rounded game. Like I feel like even with like the epic tail cards, which are like these really powerful cards that you can only get through like certain actions, even those, like sometimes they feel really, really powerful, but they're like really situational. So I think the game is like really, really well balanced. But it can be frustrating at times when somebody like always gets like the explore card, and then they can just like explore a new place every single turn, and then you have to just like draft it away from them.
Well, the game continues in the drafting. Like you have to be tactical or strategic in that.
Yeah, but that also like gives really, really interesting decisions. So I don't know. I like games more than it, so that's maybe why I'm not giving it a 10. I don't think I have anything that I could just be like, this would make the game way better, and like I think that's kind of presumptuous of me after playing it like 10 times or less, whatever. But yeah.
Well, we didn't even get into the combat, and I think I'm going to back up just a little bit in that you can choose whether you're going to, like, you automatically are triggering combat, but we can stop the combat. If we both agree that we don't want to fight, we don't have to. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that because I get frustrated in games that it's like, well, we just kind of have to fight. We have to do this. And I think it's kind of like, no, thematically, if we're both in an area, we can agree not to fight. And I like that.
Or you just don't like fighting.
Or I just don't like fighting. Although when I know I'm in a place that I can, win, or a situation like that, I can say, no, we're going to fight. And then we fight. But it's super exciting that there is word that there's going to be an expansion coming for Inish. That's going to add new cards to each deck, some new exploration tiles, and also a 5th player, which is going to lead us into our discussion for today.
Yeah, I was looking at, I was on Reddit, and they were talking about the Kickstarter for Dinosaur Island, which we played a couple weeks ago. And in the Kickstarter, like one of the things that they've added in, like it's this whole big thing, like you can get the second printing of Dinosaur Island, which is like a combination of like Jurassic Park with like Roller Coaster Tycoon, if you ever played that computer game where you like build a dinosaur theme park where you like take care of dinosaurs and stuff. It's a pretty fun game. But in this Kickstarter, like they've added all these extra things. So you can get a second printing copy of that. You can get Duelosaur Island, which is like the second the two-player smaller version of that game. And then there's also an expansion to add a 5th player into Dinosaur Island. So I saw like a lot of discussion that was like, some people were really excited. They're like, yeah, now I can play Dinosaur Island with 5 people. And other people are like, why would you ever play this with 5 people? Like, it's going to take forever, and like it's not balanced for 5 people and stuff like that. So they got me thinking, like, how do you feel about expansions that add player counts to a base game that had fewer players?
I think in general, I like them. I know that I think in some ways, like our very first game that we bought with the intention of growing our collection was Cosmic Encounter. Mm-hmm. And we intentionally purchased expansions that gave us more players.
Mm-hmm.
And that for us was really important because I think at that time we were getting large groups of people together to play, and we wanted to be able to include as many people at the time. I also think in general I wasn't as confident at teaching games, so if we didn't fit everybody in, there wasn't going to be 2 games happening at once.
Yeah, because I would lead one game and then you would have to lead the other.
Right, and I just didn't feel... I think now I could probably do that fine, but in general, we wanted to include everybody in one game. Now I think Cosmic Encounter is a game that it doesn't get broken, or it's not a bad addition to have more players. I think it's really fun. But in general, I have always appreciated an expansion that can add a player, just for the flexibility. It's like, when we have 5 people, we can play Inish.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we have 5 people, Inish is out. I love Inish, so I want every opportunity to play Inish whenever we can. So in my opinion, I haven't seen an expansion that we've purchased and use and have been unhappy with it. What do you think?
I would agree with that. I love adding players into games.
Yes. We need to talk about the Terra Mystica game that we added a player, and it wasn't an expansion. We played a 6-player game of Terra Mystica.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting. That game only goes up to 5.
Like, it worked just fine.
It did.
Like, there are some games maybe where it falls apart if you like try to do that, and I don't do that like normally.
Sure.
That was an exception. Like, we had people over to play that game, and I thought it had played 6 people, and it didn't, and we had like everything set up, and so I just kind of like threw it in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we couldn't do that with everything, but that proves your point of you like more players.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just like that. I like player interaction. I like interacting with people in the midst of the game. I think it's just like, I don't know, maybe there's like this subliminal thing where it's like, if there are more people to beat, it's somehow like a better victory. Like, I won a 6-player game is somehow like more impressive than a 5-player game. But I don't know. I think it's more fun. Like, you include more people. Like it can take longer to go around. I know that really annoys you sometimes. It annoys me sometimes too. But I don't think always to the same extent.
Well, it annoys me because I forget what I want to do by the time it gets back home to my turn.
That's fair. But I do like it. Obviously, there's like an upper limit to that, right? Like, you're not going to play like Cosmic Encounter with like 10 people. Like, that's just insane. Sure. I think the expansions, if you have all of them, goes up to like 8 maybe. And that's probably the most I would want to play it. But I don't know. I like having more people in games. I know, like, we just got our expansion for kickstarting Vast. Mm-hmm. Like that really asymmetrical 5-player game. It comes with 3 extra roles, but one of them replaces one of the initial roles, right? And they specifically said, they're like, hey, you know, like, you can mix and match these roles in up to 5 players, and we have rules how. You're not really supposed to play a 7-player, although like theoretically you could. And I'm just like, I want to do that. Like, it's going to take forever. And especially with that, having to try to teach everybody like a different asymmetrical role will take a long time. Yeah. But I think it's really fun just to include lots of people. I don't know. That's the best I can offer for that. So I'm always for expansions that add players.
Well, and I think it depends on, like, maybe it's a mark of a good expansion that integrates an additional player well. If they, don't do things to compensate for that, if there's not, okay, here's a few extra cards to do this, or here's a new mechanism that allows you to have a little more tightness to the game, or a little more room, those kinds of things. Maybe it's a mark of a good expansion that it does that well, rather than just, here you go, here it is, it's just another thing in the box type option.
Yeah, maybe. I think I would agree with that. I think I like expansions that are just straight up add a player more than expansions that change.
Here's just extra cards.
Because I feel like there's like a really... Yeah, if there's like extra cards or something, it's like more of what the game already is. I think that's fine. I think it's kind of a toss-up when you like add in new mechanics in an expansion. Like, I think sometimes it works really well, and other times it is either like useless or like too dominant. That you like, there's like, it kind of like makes stuff in the base game obsolete. Because you're like, well, why would I do this if I can just do that? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think like some good examples might be like Pandemic, like just like adding extra roles in some of the Pandemic expansions, like that, other things. So I think like the expansions that within themselves for Pandemic are kind of like hit and miss. Like we've never really played with like the bioterrorist expansion, and I don't know that I've heard good things about it. But it is really neat just to have like more
options,
like more character powers and stuff like that, and that's pretty cool. And so yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say.
No, expansions are cool. We won't dismiss it, and we like more people around our table. So in our opinion, it's not going to deter us. It's actually going to excite us more about an expansion. So
very true.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. If you'd like to get in contact with us, we'd love to hear your thoughts on how you feel about expansions that add extra players. Do you like them? Do you dislike them? What's your favorite game that adds a player and does that well with an expansion?
Or if you've just got any feedback in general, we'd love to hear if there are any ways we can improve what we've done here today.
Absolutely. If you'd like to get in contact with us, we are on Twitter at NRDWife. So we cut the E's out of NerdWife. We're on Instagram at NerdWife.
Spelled properly.
Spelled properly, of course.
But, all right, so this has been the first episode of the Nerd Wife Nerd Life podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.